Well, so I'm not going to go in exact order of the way that the day unfolded, because again, the first item I ended up seeing that I came back and bought later in the day, it's actually sitting out there, and I don't even know if I'm going to get a chance to show that, because we are in the middle of our first snowstorm. It's November 15th, and there's already 2 inches on the ground, and this storm just started. So this could be a doozy. They were forecasting like 6 or 7 inches, but it's coming down at a pretty quick rate. And I think this storm already dumped like over 10 inches in New York, so we shall see. I know one thing for sure, the kids are going to have at least a 2-hour delay for school tomorrow. This is an early storm for New England. Normally, it's not unusual for us to not have any snow on the ground for Thanksgiving, and here we are getting dumped on. All right, so first let me tell you about these guys that I went to and I saw some stuff they had that I didn't buy, and I actually went back later to give them a package offer on the 2 pieces and was going to buy both of them, and they were both gone. One was a Dumont, D-U-M-O-N-T brooch set, and it had one broken brooch in it. But the other brooches were good, and the collets were all there, and it was in a wooden case, and that was $50, which was a good deal if you needed one. I have a Minuteman brooch kit, so unless it had some, I can't remember what it had for sizes in my kit, so my thinking was, maybe I'll buy it, whichever kit has more sizes I'll keep. I knew that at $50, it wasn't like I was going to make a killing on it reselling it, so I really wanted to try and chisel that down a little bit more. And I figured if I went back later in the day and he still hadn't sold it, I might have been able to get it for $30, but he ended up selling it. And then the other thing was, I actually don't even remember what the name of it was now, but it was a ball turning or radius turning attachment for a lathe. It was a very unusual thing. And he had mentioned that it's the kind of thing that, boy, it's very unusual. He wasn't able to find a lot of listings, but the few listings he did find for it online on like eBay, they were asking, crazy money for the thing. So he figured it was worth, I forgot what he wanted for that. But I passed on it anyways. And then when I went back, somebody made him an offer he couldn't refuse because they were both gone. But when I went back, I noticed on the shelf he had various fluids and stuff, and I hadn't noticed it at first, but then when I went over and looked, I saw, oh, look at this. This is cutting oil, all right, straight cutting oil. This particular product is by a company called Trim, T-R-I-M. This is the OM287, okay. It looks like it's been sitting around. So we talked about it, and he says, well, it must be good stuff because they bought it at work. So he got this at work. For whatever reason, they were getting rid of it, and he took home 2 gallons of it. He also had 2 gallons of another product in a white jug called Buttercut. And Buttercut is like a more biodegradable type of cutting oil. I forgot what the heck it said on the label about that. I had never heard of that particular product. I decided I would take a chance, and I convinced him to sell me this gallon for $5. Now, afterwards, I was able to go online and find out that they still sell this product today, and it retails for somewhere around like $35 or $40 a gallon. So my initial thought was I should have just gave him $20 for all 4 gallons. Got 2 gallons of this and 2 gallons of the Buttercup. But Buttercut. I almost said Buttercup, or did I? Anyways. Point is, I thought about it and I said, geez, I bet you this gallon ends up lasting me quite a long time. So I think I did read that this stuff can be used in a misting application. I think I read that somewhere. So I do have that misting unit. I toyed around with the idea of maybe putting that on the Hendy when I finish it, because the Hendy's got a chip pan that it's got a sump in it, so that would work on that. So anyways, I got that for $5. That's a good deal. Could have had more, but c'est la vie. So then I was going by another table, and the guy had some motorcycle parts and stuff, and he had a whole bunch of cans of different chemicals there. And I'm going down, and there was a kind of like a break-free or penetrant type of product, and some other products, and then I spotted chain lube. And this is the kind of chain lube for motorcycles that's formulated so it clings to the chain, it doesn't sling off and make a mess. This one is by Cyclo, not particular. I don't know anything about that particular brand. I have no idea, what the quality is on it, but it's brand new. And so I said, well, how much is the chain lube? And he didn't have prices on any of his stuff, and he had, I guess, just started putting stuff out. So he tells like the kid that's with him, hey, look up the chain lube. So they start looking up online to see how much it costs, and I'm like, well, I said, I depending on how expensive it is, I might not be interested if, I'm already thinking I'm going to waste his time because he's going to come back, because he said they're going to sell it for 50% of retail. And I was like, oh. So then he comes back at me and he says, well, like $2 a can. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, yeah, that's okay. I said, you had me worried there, because I said, I don't know, if this was going to be like $8 or $10 retail, and he was going to want $4 or $5 a can, I wasn't going to bother. But I was okay at $2 a can. I says, you know what? Give me 3 cans. And he says, I tell you what, 3 for $5. So I got 3 cans of this chain lube for $5. And we use this on the kids' motorcycles, or we should be using it on the kids' motorcycles. To be honest, I haven't lubricated their chains in a while. But now we can lubricate the chains on a more regular basis for cheap. So that's why I bought that stuff. Then I went down a row of vendors who had set up on the edge of the infield, and the infield was badly flooded from all the rain. So the way that these guys were in a row, you had to get your feet pretty wet to get near them, and also when you get down near the end, you couldn't really go any further, so you had to turn around and come back. I think that was causing less foot traffic to go to these vendors. So I came across this vendor, and when I first looked, I'm going down that row, and I'm like, boy, I'm regretting even bothering coming down this row. And then all of a sudden I get to this vendor, and he had like a lot of Matchbox cars and some other kind of like old toys and stuff. And then all of a sudden he had this little pile of boxes that look like machinist boxes. So I start looking at him, and he has dial calipers. And he had like a cheap Chinese knockoff, no-name pair, made in China, and a Mitutoyo set that were broken. A Mitutoyo dial caliper, like a 6-inch dial caliper that was broken. And then I spotted this Starrett box. Like, boy, that's really nasty shape. But looked inside, like, hey, those don't look so bad. And since all of the other ones that I had picked up up to that point, there was a Fowler. The Fowlers were junk. The Mitutoyos were junk. And the Chinese ones, I think, might have worked, but they were just Chinese junk. So lo and behold, a little squeaky. Get a little bit of... This stuff was wet, too. Or damp, to say the least. So this is going to require a little bit of cleanup, but it's working perfectly fine. And so this is actually a decent set. So I asked him how much for the dial calipers. Didn't want to draw attention to any one, in case he wasn't, aware that these are so much better than anything else he had on the table. And lo and behold, he must have not thought much of them, because he said they're $10 each. So, I could get the Chinese ones for $10, or I could get the broken Mitutoyos for $10, or I could get the broken Fowlers for $10, or I could get the working Starretts for $10. So, needless to say, I got the working Starretts for $10. Let's see if LA's awesome. LA's totally awesome. Can work its magic on this train wreck. Yeah. There's red coming off on the rack. There's no coming back from that. That's unfortunate. God, I don't know where the hell these were stored. So this is closer to what that box used to look like. This is my pair that I keep. They're engraved Rogers Corporation. These actually belong to my neighbor's dad when he was working for a company, and I think they were doing aircraft parts, if I'm not mistaken. And I just noticed that actually that's a white face and this is a yellow. Oops. Or is that just yellowed from age? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that might be just yellowed with age. So these are identical, I believe. Yep, they're both Starrett 120s. This one I have to keep because it was a gift. So this will be the one I'll sell. And actually, you know, condition-wise, that's going to be the one that'll be the spare that'll go down the road, I guess. I might not sell that right away. Yeah, we'll see. So it was getting pretty later on in the day, and what had happened was the rain had finally stopped falling, and the sun had made some brief appearances, but then the sun would go away, and then we'd have like another mini downpour, and then the high winds started kicking up. And that added a new dimension to the festivities there. On my way back near the exit or entrance, depending on which way you're going, I went by a vendor whose table I had gone by earlier, but he had not put a lot of stuff out, I guess because of the rain, and I think he might have had some things covered, because I didn't notice until I was stopping by this time that he had a couple of Starrett items. So he had a Starrett 2 to 3 inch micrometer that looked almost brand new with the ratchet thimble. So that was what, a 459? I forget what number micrometer that was, what series. He had that sitting there for $50. I probably could have got a good deal on that, but I'm pretty set with micrometers, so I'm not buying them unless it's something really a crazy deal. But then I spotted this, and you'll note he's got $75 on here. I didn't see that. All I saw was that. You can imagine. But I was like, oh, what's in there? What's in there? I was like, oh, nice. So we got a Starrett 12-inch dial caliper. I don't even think I have. Well, no, I do. I think I got a Mitutoyo. It's funny, I lose track of what I've got. Anyways, this thing is sweet. Very good condition. So this is a Starrett 120. It's the same series as the 6-inch that I just showed you, but it's 12. And I knew that even if I had a 12-inch dial caliper, that I knew that I didn't have a Starrett. So, if I have a Mitutoyo 12, I'll trade up to this. I'll keep this one and I'll sell the Mitutoyo. I know I had a Chinesium 12-inch dial caliper. I just recently sold that like last month. Sent that down the road. So I must have another one. What do I have? I actually don't have a 12-inch dial caliper. No, I sold the Chinesium one. I must have sold that just because it was a Chinesium. And I knew I would trade up at some point anyways. I've got some larger verniers. But now I'm even happier that I bought this. So, anywho, I saw a price on the micrometer of $50, and I was like, well, I didn't see a price on this, and I realized, well, he had the price on the box for the micrometers, so I flipped the box over, saw the 75. I said to the gentleman, I said, I'd give you $50 for it. And, you know, by now it was later in the day. Nobody had bought it. So I guess he was thinking he'd rather sell it than take it home. Judging from the dust that's on it, if this was his, he wasn't using it much. And if it wasn't his, he probably bought it out of an estate and got a really sweet deal on it anyways. So rather than deal with the trials and tribulations possibly involved in eBay and the fees, he accepted my first offer, and only offer it would have been. Yeah, that's right, I know. You guys are probably thinking 75 even wasn't bad for this thing, because it's very clean. With the original, you know, it's an earlier one because it's got the original wooden box. I think the later ones came with the red clamshell box, like I just showed you that 6-inch has. And then not only that, but a kind of a nice little added bonus, it has the original cardboard box too. So this is a 120Z-12, and that $50 I think was what I think was my second best buy of the day, maybe. Although that 6-inch, even though it's just a 6-inch Starrett for $10, that's kind of crazy good deal there too. Did get some good deals, but my one big ticket item that I bought, which is not machinist related, but I'll show you guys anyways, that may have been the best deal of the day. And we'll get to that near the end of the video, hopefully. It's actually a day later. So the snow, we're getting some warm up today and the snow is melting. It's Saturday. I did a little bit of snow blowing yesterday. By the time I got home, that snow was already wet and melting. But the trusty Honda snowblower still cut right through it. And it only clogged twice, and that thing's like never clogged, so that tells you how wet and nasty that snow had gotten. If I had done it in the morning, if I had time to have done it in the morning, I would have had a much easier time of it, but I had to get on the road. Okay. Yeah, I got one or two more items here to show you guys, and then we'll head out and look at the big fella. Alright, so I was walking by a table, and you know, it's a swap meet at a racetrack, but people bring all kinds of stuff in. And I've actually seen some vintage electronics there before that I've contemplated buying. I think I may have picked up a couple of things over the years. I've only been going to that swap meet now for like I think this is my 3rd year going. I've even bought BMX bikes for the kids there. Got, you know, some really good deals on some of those. Anywho, came across this here. This is an ICO, E-I-C-O, pronounced ICO, model 950. Resistance, capacitance, comparator, bridge. Those of you who are new to my channel might not know my background. I originally had a TV repair shop back in the 90s when you could still make money doing that. Now, ICO was a company that sold test equipment back in the day, but they also sold kits. So you could buy this one of two ways. You could either buy this as a kit and then assemble it yourself, so you had a learning experience as you put it together, saw how it worked, and then you could use it as a piece of test equipment on your bench. The other way you could buy this is you could buy this fully assembled from ICO, and it was ready to go out of the box. Now, this one does not have any stickers on the outside indicating that it was inspected. Usually, if it's from the factory, assembled from the factory, usually there's a sticker on here somewhere that will say that it was inspected and tested. Or maybe they put the sticker on the inside. It's been quite a while, I don't remember. Or maybe the sticker was there and fell off. Or maybe this was a kit somebody built. Don't know. So, what this does, for those of you who do not know, this is used for testing capacitors. It's also used for measuring capacitance, and it's also used for measuring, I think you can use this for inductance. I don't remember exactly. Yes, this is also can be used for measuring inductance. So one of the interesting facts about this this unit is that these type of old capacitance testers have actually had a resurgence in popularity. The values have gone up quite a bit on eBay, and the reason for that is because people who are now servicing vintage equipment, like old tube amplifiers, for instance, they are now very interested in these old capacitance checkers that were capable of generating the voltages for leakage tests that these were able to generate. This particular model right here actually goes up to 500 volts. Okay, so I put this in the 500 volt range here. I actually run the risk of generating 500 volts at these posts right here. So this can be dangerous, to say the least. So it does not have any of the safety features built into modern equipment that you might find. Modern equipment tries to use very low voltage to do the same tests. Some of the purists out there do not believe that it's capable of that these newer units are capable of really doing a correct test, because they don't generate the voltage. And there's merit in that, but I think some of the really new testers that just use batteries in them, they do have technology behind them that allows them to still make very accurate tests and predictions of the condition of a capacitor. Now, I'm not talking about a capacitance meter built into a multimeter like this. This is a very good multimeter, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about a different animal here when we're talking about it. Like, for instance, my Sencor analyzers that may have seen me use in other videos, those Sencor analyzers, those are testing the capacitors under their rated voltage. So there's something to be said for the idea that you need to have the capacitor actually under its working rated voltage to get a correct test. Enough about that argument. So this is sitting on the guy's table. He didn't know what it was, and we got to talking about it. He had no price on it. I mentioned that I was kind of interested in it because I had one back in the day. I haven't touched this, I haven't powered it up, I haven't done anything, so I have no idea what the story is. I will say this: the cord's in very good shape. It's not all dry rotted, cracked, and brittle. It's still supple. So that's a good sign. I am kind of concerned about this. Is an eye indicating tube. The end of this eye, of the top, the tube, it's a long cylindrical tube. We'll see it when I open this up. The top of the tube here is actually the indicator that tells you, as you move this, it tells you when you've hit that sweet spot of resonance on the capacitor. So that's how you determine the value. That is usually right up here in the front, and you can see that that's actually pushed back inside that far, and I have no idea why that would be. I'm hoping that just the strap that this was in loosened up and somebody just pushed it for some reason, and that we just have to slide it back forward. But I have no idea what's going on inside there. I wouldn't want to power this up right now. I'd be worried, and I'm hoping that no one did that with this in this position, because I don't know whether or not the back of that tube socket that this plugs into, if there's any connections or anything that might have been shorting out against the case. So anyways, talking to the guy, and the guy mentioned to me that somebody had donated it for the Boy Scouts yard sale that they run down there, and he had no idea what it was. So my first thought was, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder if somebody donated to the Boy Scouts yard sale, why didn't it sell at the Boy Scouts yard sale? There's got to be some hard luck guys like myself who would have thought that this was really cool. And those yard sales, they usually sell stuff so cheap. It's usually just like, give us a donation, you can take it type of thing. So did this guy pick this? Was this guy involved with the Boy Scouts, and did he pick this item before it had a chance to see the light of day at the Boy Scouts, only to bring it to the speedway and sell it to me for the $10 that I offered him. I mean, he said, make an offer. I said, I don't know, $10? He said, sure. I got this for $10. Really good deal. If this is completely broken, it's still worth the $10. I could turn this around as is and sell it tomorrow on eBay for more than $10. Not a hell of a lot more, but more than $10. So, anyways, I'd love to just plug this in, and here's the power, AC off. Okay, I'd love to just plug this in and turn it on and see what happens. But smoke and fire this early in the morning, not the greatest thing. So I'm going to actually open this up and make sure, I'm going to do a visual inspection to make sure there isn't something horrible going on in there before I put power to this thing. So the box is all one piece. It's not made to have like a back that comes off. So the way that you service this is you take these screws out along the perimeter, not these two. You take the screws out along the perimeter here. This one screw right here. You can see this is actually the back of the chassis that's going to slide out. My, what do we have there? Show you something in a moment. We have what appears to be bird feed. I don't know what the heck that is. It's in there. That is not anything originally of this machine.
Alright, what I see here under my magnification, which I'm not going to discuss you with, is what looks like bird seed that is chewed up and mouse poop.
I'll tell you what, if somebody can tell me how a mouse, I mean, I know they're famous for being able to get into small openings, but come on, really? Look at that thing. There's no way a mouse got in this thing. This must have been open like this at some point, and a mouse went in there, did his business, brought his snack in, pooped, left, and then somebody closed this up. That's the only thing I can think of. It just, there's no way. Because when this is put together, the chassis is right up against this, so this hole is completely blocked. And these holes here are blocked. Well, actually that one is, this one isn't. But I mean, there's no way a mouse went through that hole or through these louvers. That is really wild. Alright, let me get something to clean up that disgusting. Alright, so we're plugged in, but the power is off. I know this is the power on, but I think the way to do this is to be watching this side here, because I'm going to be looking to see if this tube starts to light, and mainly I'm going to be looking for any kind of signs of smoke so I could shut it down real quick. You know, if a resistor starts smoking, I can always change the resistor out. My main concern is if this transformer were to start smoking, I'd want to shut it down immediately, because I do not want to toast that transformer. That's probably one of the items in this that it would be the hardest to source. Maybe not, but the point is, why ruin it? Which is, somebody's probably thinking right now, don't even turn it on without recapping the thing. But hey, hear a slight hum. The filament on this tube is lighting. Hey, the electronic eye, as I think they sometimes called them back in the day, is lit. Hey, how cool is that? That actually seems to be working. Oh yeah, and when you put it all the way down to this setting right here, the eye actually opens up. Okay, let's grab the meter. I was wondering why nothing was happening until I put it on comparator. It's because I'm on the wrong test posts. Over here, dummy. This is just for testing value, so there's no voltage present on the posts. You're going to come over here to these two paper mica test and electrolytic test are the leakage test positions. So when you put it in the leakage test position, that's when it starts outputting voltage. So we can see setting the knob to what appears to be 350. We get about 338 volts. Let's max it out and see what we get. We're getting a max of 475 volts out of this thing, and it's supposed to be able to go up to 500. Not too worried about that. This is actually working really well. Lowest position where it turns on, it throws out, well, I could actually get it down to even 7 volts, but the point is, this does not seem like it's very erratic at all. This potentiometer doesn't even seem like it needs to be cleaned. Wow, that's nice. Let's play around with this. Let's grab the capacitor from hell from the Hammond grinder. Okay, so I've hooked this capacitor up to the capacitor tester, and I've changed the range selector to the 0.1 microfarad to 50 microfarad range, because I know that this capacitor should be around 8 microfarad, I think is what we ended up figuring. So 0.1 to 50 microfarad, it falls within that range. And then if we come up here and we look at the range selector here, the big thing, we can see resistance, capacitance, expanded. All right, so this outer ring is going to be where we look to measure, and we've got 3 ranges there. So we don't want expanded, we want the 0.1 to 50 range. So if we look at that bottom row, that's going to be our, so right there is 10 microfarad. So this should be right around here is where, what we're going to look for is we're going to look for that eye is going to open up. And the point where it's max open, that's where we take a reading. So we're going to turn this until that opens. You can see it's just starting to open. Right there is our max. See, the eye is completely closed, and you're going to see that's going to start to open up. See, it's opening up right there. So what we do is we rotate this, and we're going to get a sweet spot where that's at the max opening. And then if we go any further, you see it starts closing back down again. So we find that sweet spot where it's max open, and that's where we take our reading. Now that black line right there coincides with the 5 microfarad. And there's what we call parallax error, which is if you're not looking straight on, you might get some error. So I'm going to get down at the level of the face here so I can really look at it. And yeah, I would definitely say, since this is 10 and that's 5, and we've got a couple of divisions here. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions here. You'll see it's non-linear. The spacing between these bars is non-linear. So actually, that next black line, which is quite a ways away, is 6 microfarad. So I would say this is actually measuring about 5.25 microfarad. Now, this has not been aligned. So is this really, should this really be showing 8? Not necessarily, because, well, maybe this is actually pretty accurate. So the way to align this would be to put a known capacitance, or like a reference capacitance, across these terminals. Dial this in. And then if the pointer does not actually coincide with the correct reading, there's actually a set screw on here so you can shift the position of this pointer on the shaft. And believe it or not, that's how you align this thing. There's no trimmers or anything on the inside here to adjust for that. You actually just basically reposition this pointer on the shaft. And then that's the idea behind alignment. It's not a super accurate capacitance tester, but hey, it'll get you in the ballpark definitely, and that's actually working perfectly fine. So let me get a close up here. All right, let's do a leakage test. Okay, so for leakage, I'm gonna bring this back down, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna change this selector to electrolytics. Okay. Now the eye is completely open, full open position. And what's going to happen is when I increase this voltage over here, it's going to actually, the eye is going to start to close as the capacitor charges. And the idea is that the eye is supposed to open back up as the capacitor reaches its full charge. So I don't know if you saw that, but every time I increased the voltage, the eye would start to shut and then open back up. Start to shut, open back up. And what that is that's the capacitor charging up, charging up, charging up. And as long as it opens up back fully like that, then that's an indication that the capacitor is good. However, note that I am only at 200 volts. So what that tells me is that this capacitor is not leaky at 200 volts. But this capacitor was rated for much higher, so we want to get that voltage up closer to what it was rated. So this capacitor is rated for 350 volts AC, all right, but we're just going to put 350 DC into it. I'm not going to use the dial here because we know that that's not completely accurate, so I'm just going to put my voltmeter across it, and we're going to do like we just did. We're going to bring it up, bring it up, bring it up, and we're still open, we're still not leaky. I mean, there's 359 right there, and that's interesting. This old capacitor with stuff leaking out of it still tests good. How do you like them apples? That doesn't exactly look that great, does it? So I didn't have to do a lick of work to this thing yet, and it's already useful to me in some way, okay? So that makes this possibly the best buy of the day. I don't know. $10 for a working ICO 950, not too shabby. And at some point, try and find a little bit of time. We'll spend a little bit of money putting some caps in this thing, and we'll have a sweet little piece of test gear for my vintage electronics test bench that I hope to be putting together at some point. So before we go outside and take a look at that big item I alluded to at the beginning of the video series, I want to just point out this one other item I did scoop. I got this roll right here for $20, and this is copper wire, and it's actually 6'3" non-metallic cable. So $20 for that roll is actually a really good buy, because there's more than likely there's over 20 feet there. So I paid probably less than $1 a foot for that stuff. And the way I know what this is because it's clearly marked Anaconda Dutrax, which is the trade name, type NM, N as in November, M as in Michael, which stands for non-metallic. That means that references the coating, this covering is non-metallic. 6/3, that means that this has number 6 gauge copper conductors in it. This doesn't, back up for a second, number 6 gauge conductors. It doesn't mean it's copper, but I happen to know that it is copper. Number 6/3 means that there are 3 current carrying conductors in here. There's also a ground, but the ground, because it's not supposed to normally carry current, is a smaller gauge wire. So this 3 denotes 3 of the conductors. There's actually a 4th conductor, which is non-current carrying, which is the ground, okay, and 600 volt. So that is what this is. So this stuff would be good for running a, say if I want to run a circuit for running my big welder, I could use this stuff. Or maybe not. I don't know. I figured, hell, there might even be more than $20 in scrap copper sitting there. Okay, everybody. It's the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. I've had this flea market find segment all recorded and ready to be edited for a while now, except it was missing one piece. I still hadn't gotten around to showing the one big item that I picked up. So it's 28 degrees out here, or actually it was 28 degrees earlier. I think by now it's dropping because the sun's gonna be setting soon. Anyways, so this was the last thing I had on my mind to buy when I walked into that Thompson Speedway flea market that day. But right when I walked in, there was a guy set up there, and he must have had 15 or 20 snow blowers all lined up ready to go. Obviously he's in the business of fixing up snow blowers and selling them. He had quite a few late model Arians there and a couple others, and I was fortunate enough years ago to come into the possession of a snowblower that I quickly learned was probably the best walk-behind snowblower that was ever made. And it was made by a company that's known for making fine products, and it's also made by a company known for making fine products that are often priced so high that a lot of people don't buy them or even consider them. And that is why I hadn't bought a new one of these. This is a Honda HS928. Now this snowblower is the track version of the one that I currently own, which is the there it is, the HS920, the HS828S. All right. Yeah, I know it doesn't look very good. It's very sun faded, and it's got a lot of hours on it. But this thing is a beautiful machine. Like I said, it's freezing cold out here, and as cold as it is, this will still probably start on the first pull. All right, make a liar out of me. So, anyways, great snowblower. The reason why these are so great is a couple of things. First off, it's a hydrostatic drive for the forward and reverse on this thing. So this handle has no stop detent whatsoever. It's basically, it's in, when you get it in this position here, it's not moving. The further forward you push this forward, the faster it goes forward. It's real easy to pull, push up into a really big pile, back right down again easy, throw it all the way forward if you're going to just head back to the garage, that kind of thing. Really great. And that ground speed is 100% independent of the impeller speed. The impeller speed is directly tied to the RPMs of the engine and nothing else. It's got the thing here so you can adjust the chute. It's got the deflector angle adjustment right up here, so you can shoot the snow far or close. It's just a great machine. And as beat to heck looking as this is, we'll clean it up a little bit. And when we get a good snowstorm, this will go up for sale on the local for sale pages there, and I'll still be able to get probably a few $100 for it. These new are crazy money. These are like over $2,000 new. And the thing is, they still make these. They still make these exact models, so you can buy these models today. This one, the first thing that caught my eye was it's a track model, which is the only reason I would get rid of that one, is to upgrade to a track model. And the second thing that caught my eye was the overall condition looks fantastic. It looks like it was really well cared for. Other than some rust here on this cover and some rust here on the guides, it looks really great. Alright, so let me try and wrap this up. I got the Dodge Cummins over there warming up because I'm ready to test drive it, because I just finished a repair on there, so I got two things going at once here. Okay, so This has got the same setup as far as the adjustments for the chute and everything. This is not the exact model I wanted. The exact model I wanted was the biggest one they make, which is called the 1132. The 11 would be 11 horsepower, 32-inch wide chute. This is a 928, so it's a 9 horsepower with a 28-inch wide. So this has got the same width as my other one, but instead of wheels, it's got tracks, and it's got, I believe, 1 more horsepower. But so I come walking down, and I see he's got 2 Hondas there. He's got a wheeled one exactly like mine, and he's got this tracked one. And I looked at the tag he had on it, and he had $550 on it. And I thought, wow, that's a good price for this machine. Previous to this, I only found one used one at my local pawn shop, and the guy would not accept $1,100 for it. It was very clean. It might have been an 1132. It might have been the bigger one, which I believe now currently retails for like $2,800 new. I think this one is around $2,300 new. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly. But they are crazy expensive new. It's got the light on it. The light works. So $550. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to still try and get a deal. So I kept going back and trying to get him to take less for it, and then in the end we end up settling on, I think, $475 for this, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, memory's kind of foggy, but anyways. And I forgot the key inside, so let me go grab, actually, the key. The key, hey Peter, the key from that snowblower fits this one. Just take the key out of that one. Alright, so it's 28 degrees out, and I just wanted to show you this. This is he turned 14 yesterday, but apparently he's still a moron because he's out here.
This does not fit.
28 degrees. Hold on, it does. Yeah, it does. Hold on. Okay, so on choke. Let it warm up a second. So that's it. That was my big ticket item. I checked the oil. The oil's beautiful, way clean. Looked like he had just done an oil change on this thing. So anyways, it's in really good shape. I'm gonna get a cover for this so I can keep it in better shape than the other one. Ended up, the other one just being outside, the snow, the direct sunlight, the UV rays and everything over time, it kind of took a toll on it. We'll try and keep this one a little nicer. But one of the main reasons why I wanted a tracked one as opposed to my wheeled one there is because I've got a dirt driveway, and there's some areas there where there's some frost heaves in that. And what's nice about the tracked one is I can actually set the height here. I can actually set the height, and I can keep that back blade slightly up off the ground so that I don't have to worry about hitting rocks and stuff like that in the dirt driveway. Now, it's just theoretical, I'll probably have to try this a couple of storms and see if it works out. The one thing that's kind of not so great about the tracked one as opposed to the wheel one, this is a little harder to turn. Mainly on pavement when it's dry, I think in the snow it probably won't be that big of a deal. But there's no like release. Like, believe it or not, years ago, I used to do snow for a lady who had a snow blower in her garage that I always used to do her driveway, and it was an MTD, Make Trash Daily. And that MTD tracked snowblower had its issues, but the one thing that was kind of nice about it was it had little triggers underneath here, one on each side. And the way it worked was if you pulled that trigger, it disengaged that track. So if I wanted to turn the machine, you just pulled this trigger on this side, that track would stop driving, and this one would continue to drive. It would make it really easy to turn. But that whole mechanism and everything that drove those tracks and everything was complete junk. And when it would wear out, there were parts you could replace, but it was just a bad design. So it was just really a big piece of junk. So this is a much better design, and it's the hydrostatic drive and everything. So I'm happy with this. So that was it. That was the big ticket item I wanted to show you guys. All right, take care. By the time this video airs, I think I might be over 7,000 subs. I'm hoping. So because I'm kind of behind, I'm getting backed up here with video. Needs editing and needs posting. So take care. I hope you enjoy this video. Time to test drive the Dodge Cummins so that I can wrap up that video series.